Hello, beautiful people. So, today I really want to talk to you about something that's very close to my heart. It's called people pleasing. And when I say close to my heart, I mean not something that I love to do, but something that I have done a lot. And you may have heard people refer to people pleasing as the disease to please. I think there's even a book called The Disease to Please. And I wanted to talk about this because people pleasing can actually lead to disease and did for me. I have spent most of my life as a people pleaser, and I ended up getting an autoimmune illness a couple of years ago. And I would definitely put that down in a large part to it was how I'd chosen to live, and whether that was created through my inherent nature, through various situations when I was younger, growing up, tools that I learned to deal with the situation, probably a bit of both. So being a people pleaser throughout my life, I think led in a large part to having an autoimmune illness, which took me out for a long time. And so I think it's so important that we talk about it. So in the recovery process from the autoimmune illness, which was called chronic fatigue, I mean, there's so many different ones now. And I think, the name is just an umbrella term for loads of different things that the doctors don't really know exactly what it is. So people pleasing, I think, started when I was a child. And a combination of situation, family situation, and not that that was anyone's fault, but that's just what was going on at the time. My own self, my own nature, just wanting to please, being a giver. And also people that are empathic really tend to be people pleasers. And I don't want it to be a massive generalization. It doesn't mean if you're empathic, you are a people pleaser, but it tends to happen. So empathic means that you have a high level of empathy, which means that you feel what other people are feeling. And I suppose there's sort of a continuum of being empathic. So sometimes you might feel, if you're in a room with a number of people, you feel drained by the energy that's going on around you, or especially if you're with someone who is feeling a strong emotion, whether it's upset or even excited, you can feel that emotion sort of filter into you. So I think of it as if I am a sponge. I feel like I'm a sponge, and what's going on around me, people's energy and emotions around me, just kind of seep into me and almost become mine. So when you are quite empathic, other people's discomfort is an actual discomfort to you. So I feel other people's discomfort as a discomfort to me. So it was my natural assumption to try to ease other people's discomfort in order to ease my own. Thinking if I, sort them out and help them and calm them down or whatever it is, make them comfortable, then I will then feel comfortable. But that's just all the wrong way around, because you can imagine running around, which is exactly what I was doing for many years, trying to make everyone else feel comfortable, trying not to let anyone down, trying to say yes and do as many things as I could to keep everybody happy. It just ends up by me not getting what I needed. And also I wasn't asking for what I needed, because I was so worried about what everyone else was feeling, I almost just forgot about myself. So that is what people pleasing is really, is putting other people's needs and wants and desires before your own. And not just every now and then, and obviously it's lovely to do that sometimes, for the people that you care about, but I mean as a regular rule, that you're putting other people's needs before your own. So an example would be, whether it was at work or in my business or even friends and family relationships, I would always give 150%. I would always try to be at every event that I could be. I would always try to, be at the business conference, do as much as I could at work, even though I was exhausted at the end of the day. Try and be at as many things and be on the phone and be as supportive to my friends as I could, without taking time for myself and without sometimes saying, no, that doesn't work for me, or that doesn't work in my life, and that's not what I need right now. So it seems quite simple, doesn't it? But when you're to be able to say no, thank you, but you'll understand if you feel like you are a people pleaser, it's really difficult. And even now, I really struggle with it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how I learned to become less of a people pleaser, even though it is a continuing practice. But it can just, I want to explain how damaging it can be. So when we're people pleasing, we are trying to do what others want us to do, or what we feel like they want us to do, what would either make us look good to them, or what would make them feel good, what they want, whatever it is, which sounds quite selfless. But in actual fact, in a lot of cases, it's actually quite manipulative, because we are wanting them to see us in a certain way or feel a certain way about us, because that's how we want the relationship or whatever it is to be. So it's almost a bit controlling in a way. And not to say that, people pleasers are really mean and manipulative. It's not conscious at all. But if you think about it, there is a little manipulation in there. And another thing about people pleasing, when you're constantly trying to externally deal with what is going on around you and the needs of everyone else around you, you can imagine how much that disconnects you from your intuition and from your inner voice, which, as we know, is our best guidance system. So when I was people pleasing, I was so disconnected from my intuition and from my inner voice. I was just so externally focused, trying to figure out what I could do to keep, all the plates spinning, to keep all the balls in the air, to keep these various people happy, to keep the status quo as it was. And what ended up happening to me was it all came crashing down. Not just in terms of my illness, but also a lot of other things in my life. So leading up to the illness, I was working in quite a hectic job, and I wasn't very well at the time. I had a lot going on, but I just took it all on, didn't even consider anything else. Took it all on, sorted everything out, was working long hours, hectic, and eventually went to the doctor, and he just said, you have to stop working. You have to stop working. And luckily for me, I had an amazing homeopathic doctor who's also a medical doctor. And I went to him straight away, and we talked about it, and he sorted me out, and I was on the treatment to remove the various viruses in my body that had flared up, because my immune system was so depleted that these viruses had managed to take hold. So I started a course of treatment, and that treatment, took about 9 months or so, as did my healing process. And in that time, when I had some time to reflect, I started to understand that some of the choices I'd been making and the ways I'd been living weren't working for me at all. And people pleasing was a big part of that. So what I learned to do to change the habit, if you like, is to set boundaries. Now, even for me now, and you might find this if you feel like you are a people pleaser, the word boundaries is kind of a scary word, because you're saying to someone no, essentially. You're saying, this is what I'm willing to accept, and this is what I need, and anything else I'm saying no to. And when I started to do this, it was terrifying, really. I would, even on small things, I would set a boundary with someone, and then I would spend most of the rest of the day freaking out about it. I'm wondering, should I say something else? Should I go back and say, actually, it's fine? What are they thinking? Do they hate me? Whatever, all these different thoughts. And I've been in the process now of being very clear about my boundaries wherever I'm conscious to do so. And even still, when I listen to my intuition and set a boundary, it still feels very uncomfortable to me often. But I know how good it is for me. And once I've set that boundary, even if the person, maybe to start with, doesn't respond that well to it, it's still absolutely essential to do so. And in my general life and afterwards, life is so much better, so much easier. I can actually function and do what I need to do and get my needs met and make sure I have what I need. Because can you imagine, for years and years, fulfilling everybody else's needs and ignoring your own? I mean, that can only go on for so long. At some point, you're just going to crash and burn. So I really recommend, if you feel that you have a tendency to people please, if you can, start setting boundaries, just small ones. If someone asks you to do something you don't have time for, you're tired, you don't want to do it, just say, I'm so sorry, but not this time. Or whatever it might be. If in a relationship, someone is used to you doing certain things, or even being a certain way, often I definitely found I would adjust myself to fit with the people I was with. So, with some people, I wouldn't make, I wouldn't talk at all about being spiritual. I would just keep it fun and light and have a few drinks, whatever. With other people, I would be, sort of deep conversations, and got very good at sort of acting these different parts. And not that they weren't me, and not that I wasn't being genuine, but I was choosing which parts of myself to share with people. And that is another element of people pleasing. And when you do that, the sad thing is that people don't really have an opportunity to really see you. Is they see the part of you that you want them to see. But because they can't see the whole you, they miss out on that deep connection. So even in relationships, it's so much better to have clear boundaries and be all of yourself, no matter who you're with. So that is my little tip for today, and I highly recommend have a go at setting boundaries, and you will maybe not straight away feel a lot better, but I promise you, as time goes on, it will really change your life, and it has done for me in my healing process. It is still a work in progress, but I am never going back. I am never going back. So I hope this was a little bit helpful. Have a lovely day. Oh, my love.